King David stands as a prime example of someone who lost their first love. We remember him rightfully as the man after God's own heart, but we also remember David as a murderer and an adulterer. And we might ask the question, how could one who was known for his devotion to God fall so horribly? What were his steps that led to his demise? We'll talk about that in a moment, but first of all, let me just say hi and welcome again to another message from my heart to your heart. These are little, I call it heart to heart. And I'm John Kuert, the pastor at Alpha Assembly in Clarion, Pennsylvania. Thanks for joining me once again today. And I hope that these messages are uplifting or challenging, encouraging, whatever. But I bring them to you from my heart, and I believe that they are messages that can actually come from God's heart to your heart. So God bless you today. Well, anyway, here we go. David's steps to losing his first love were subtle, very subtle, but very real. When David sat on his rooftop watching Bathsheba, he was not walking with the Lord as he once had. We read earlier in the Psalms how David possessed this great devotion and passion for God. But at this particular point in his life, we don't read of him worshiping or singing love songs to God. David was spiritually idle. And when you stop progressing spiritually, when you stop moving forward, you are a spiritual disaster waiting to happen. And we must recognize that deep in our nature, we all have a natural tendency to wander. It's even with like a fire. You think of a fire in a fireplace. If you don't put the wood continually on there, the fire is going to go out. We have this tendency to diminish in our devotion to God. This tendency to wander from Him, and it's no mistake. God compares us to wandering sheep. That's our natural tendency. So I would say to you today, don't get careless. Keep the fire of your first love burning brightly. And if it has almost gone out, well, ask the Holy Spirit to rekindle the flame. And I believe He will. And I'll just end with this little story about Dr. Bill Bright, who was the founder of Campus Crusade for Christ. And one day, with another number of other pastors, I was at breakfast with him, and we were sitting around the table. And at that point, he was over 80 years old, and he had a breathing machine. And Dr. Bill Bright was such a witness. He was so on fire for God. Well, anyway, one of the pastors asked him, "What would you want us to pray for you about?" And we all thought that he would say, "Well, pray that God heals me of this condition so that I can breathe and so that I can continue to live." But no, that's not what he asked for us to pray for him for. He said, "Pray that I will never lose my first love." Here was a man over 80 years old. He had been living for God. When he first got saved, he wrote a contract to be a slave for Jesus Christ for his life, and he was a great man of God, and he never left that devotion cool off. He never lost that first love. And I think how great that is for him to even though he had other needs in his life, that was his priority. And that should be our priority, each and every one of us. It should be the thing that's on our mind the most, that we should keep that spiritual fervency that we should keep the fire burning within us and never, never lose that first love like the church at Ephesus did in Revelation chapter 2. We read that Jesus had something against them, that they had lost their first love. And so I encourage you to do that. Keep pressing on. Keep loving Jesus. Keep the fires burning within you. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for joining me again. I'm John Kuert, as I said before, and pastor at Alpha Assembly in Clarion, Pennsylvania. We're located at 499 East Grandview Pike, and we would love to have you visit us on a Sunday morning, 10:30, and you'll enjoy the fellowship and the word and the music. So God bless you. Have a great day, and Lord willing, we'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.